Unfortunately, I've got a bit of a gloomy episode for you today. A massive reorganization is underway at Tesla, and the UAW is trying to swing the law hammer at Tesla buyers. This is Tesla Tidbits episode number 414 for June 13th, 2018. The far and away biggest news today is word that Tesla is about to shed 9% of its workforce. Elon Musk put out his unedited email to the public on Twitter since he believed it was already leaked to the media, and here's what it had to say. I'm going to give you the whole thing and then hit some points at the end. Quote, as described previously, we are conducting a comprehensive organizational restructuring across our whole company. Tesla has grown and evolved rapidly over the past several years, which has resulted in some duplication of roles and some job functions that, while they made sense in the past, are difficult to justify today. As part of this effort, and the need to reduce costs and become profitable, we have made the difficult decision to let go of approximately 9% of our colleagues across the company. These cuts were almost entirely made from our salaried population, and no production associates were included, so this will not affect our ability to reach Model 3 production targets in the coming months. Given that Tesla has never made an annual profit in almost 15 years since we have existed, profit is obviously not what motivates us. What drives us is our mission to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable, clean energy, but we will never achieve that mission unless we eventually demonstrate that we can be sustainably profitable. That is a valid and fair criticism of Tesla's history to date. This week, we are informing those whose roles are impacted by this action. We made these decisions by evaluating the criticality of each position, whether certain jobs could be done more efficiently and productively, and by assessing the specific skills and abilities of each individual in the company. As you know, we are also continuing to flatten our management structure to help us communicate better, eliminate bureaucracy, and move faster. In addition to this company-wide restructuring, we have decided not to renew our residential sales agreement with Home Depot in order to focus our efforts on selling solar power in Tesla stores and online. The majority of Tesla employees working at Home Depot will be offered the opportunity to move over to Tesla retail locations. I would like to thank everyone who is departing Tesla for their hard work over the years. I'm deeply grateful for your many contributions to our mission. It is very difficult to say goodbye. In order to minimize impact, Tesla is providing significant salary and stock vesting, proportionate to length of service, to those that we are letting go. To be clear, Tesla will still continue to hire outstanding talent in critical roles as we move forward, and there is still a significant need for additional production personnel. I also want to emphasize that we are making this hard decision now so that we never have to do this again. To those who are departing, thank you for everything you have done for Tesla, and we wish you well in your future opportunities. To those remaining, I would like to thank you in advance for the difficult job that remains ahead. We are a small company in one of the toughest and most competitive industries on Earth, where just staying alive, let alone growing, is a form of victory. Tesla and Ford remain the only American car companies who haven't gone bankrupt. Yet, despite our tiny size, Tesla has already played a major role in moving the auto industry towards sustainable electric transport and moving the energy industry towards sustainable power generation and storage. We must continue to drive that forward for the good of the world. Thanks, Elon. End quote. To be clear, while 9% doesn't sound like a lot, when you have 37,000 workers in an organization, all of a sudden you realize that roughly 3,300 people are losing their jobs in short order. That's a bit depressing, and my heartfelt condolences go out to those finding themselves without work. On the upside for those people, a key phrase in this statement was that Tesla is, quote, providing significant salary and stock vesting, end quote, to the departing associates. Wanted to give a shout out to Twitter follower Taylor Marks for pointing this out and pondering what it means. In most companies, when this happens, that's translating to a severance package of probably 6 months' salary, give or take, depending on service, which was also noted. Another big thing to note is that the Home Depot sales agreement for solar that I reported on not all that long ago is going to go away. An interesting move, as I thought it gave Tesla a more mainstream way to reach customers that may never have stepped into a Tesla store. However, I can easily see the rationale given the climate. The last major thing to note is that all these departures are occurring outside of production. If you're an hourly production worker, you're safe and have nothing at all to worry about. All cuts were made on the administrative side. Again, good luck to all affected by the cuts being made. We'll end today's episode at Electrek, where the UAW is at it again, trying now to shape the law in order to not only harm Tesla indirectly, but in actuality attack those that purchase its cars. A new regulation backed by the UAW is being considered by the California Air Resources Board, or CARB, as well as the Labor and Workforce Development Agency. The rule would link the CARB state rebate for EVs to the ability of a manufacturer to adhere to new standards of a, quote, fair and responsible workplace, end quote. Now, I think I can speak for all of us that we want a fair and responsible workplace for everyone. But let's look at 3 items that relate to this. Firstly, this doesn't affect Tesla directly. It affects people that want to buy a Tesla. So now not only does UAW want to force its way into Tesla where it seems it isn't wanted, but if it can't win that, it wants to, frankly, screw over California residents that want to buy a Tesla. Secondly, what exactly is the standard of a fair and responsible workplace? It isn't really defined in this article. Who is writing that definition? Does the UAW have input, which would be a clear conflict of interest? Inquiring minds want to know. And lastly, and probably what will get this rule stopped, and if not stopped here, thrown out in a court, is that this is a clear case of a law being so narrowly written that it only affects one person or entity. Being that Tesla is literally the only car manufacturer in the state, Tesla is the only manufacturer that this law would affect. Tesla says as much in their own comment on the regulation, saying it was, quote, a tool to influence the UAW's organizing effort at Tesla's Fremont factory. This is not just an equitable problem, it is a legal one. While a state can legally require that manufacturers meet generally applicable labor standards, it cannot target a single manufacturer under the guise of creating such a labor standard, end quote. This also puts Tesla on an unfair playing field with other manufacturers that could continue to ignore this rule without repercussion. Even automotive lobbying group Global Automakers said as much to the state, quote, there is therefore no legal way that California could deprive a manufacturer from participating in the rebate program based on activities taking place entirely outside the state, end quote. And even if all that isn't a good enough argument, Carl Gardino, president of the Silicon Valley Leadership Group, makes a very good point about California attracting any further manufacturing jobs, saying the rule, quote, discourages future manufacturing investment in California by effectively holding companies that create manufacturing jobs in California to a different and higher standard, end quote. While funky things have occurred in law in the past, I'm not too concerned about this one. Both the legal and economic deterrents to passing such a rule are very strong, and I doubt this will go much of anywhere. You can check out the links to the full stories in the show description. While you're doing that, please consider supporting the show financially through Patreon at patreon.com/Tesla Tidbits. Thanks as always to the super patrons out there supporting the show at the $10 plus level. They are John Walthour, Drew Schuyler, John Waller, Mark and Sarah Thomas, Ryan Scarborough, Lee Sweet, William Henry Crew III, Dorian Steve Guberman, Bruno Quindici, Joey Boots, Ralph and Cheryl Waterhouse, Adam Raymer Brown, Megawatt Photovoltaic Development, Todd Sullivan, Robert Healy, Mitch Long, Zortec LED Canada, and Morven Ogg. If you can't support with dollars, be sure to show your love with positive reviews and subscriptions on YouTube, iTunes, and other services across the internet. That's it for today's episode. If you have feedback for me, the best way to be heard is to tweet at Tesla Tidbits and use the hashtag AskTeslaTidbits if you'd like your question to be considered for the show. I'll see everyone back here again tomorrow. Until then, keep it charged and hit the road.